Hey guys, it's so lovely to have you all here again this afternoon for another Lunch and Learn. This is the third one in our series of where we're asking the experts the questions, the hard questions all the time. So yeah, we're going to be putting it to our experts today. Our topic for today is how do I put together a killer self-tape? Again, like I said, this is something that comes up quite frequently. So today we're going to be speaking to Alex and Roxy from Jinjo Castings, who are going to kind of break it down for us a little bit and give us some of their kind of top tips, tricks and tools when it comes to putting together that killer self-tape that will get you recognized and that will ensure that you're putting your best foot forward to casting directors. So before we kind of jump in then, I actually want to know a little bit more about you two, because from what I've seen of you, you started your casting agency in 2018, so it hasn't even been that long. You've had the pandemic since. I mean, that must have been interesting. So I want to kind of hear a little bit more about your journey, how it's been, how you started the agency. I know I read some part about your company in particular, that you're really into kind of street casting, and inclusivity is a really big thing for you guys. So it'd be really, really great to kind of hear a bit more about you guys.
Yeah. Can we start?
Yeah, go for it.
So you said we started working together, I think, it was about 2018-ish. Yeah. We actually met on a holiday in Ibiza. And yeah, Roxy sort of had come from a production and research background. I'd done like little bits and pieces of casting for like friends, but like nothing big. And we obviously met on this holiday and sort of got talking at that time.
And then I guess just like all our interests kind of aligned. So yeah, like I said, like I came from a research background, so that would be whether it was for like documentaries or doing stories, and then naturally that kind of led to sort of character research and research of individuals, and that kind of went into production. It kind of happened quite naturally, to be honest. But then the more we started talking, the more we sort of realized our sort of interests aligned quite a bit. And then
I feel like we had a few different ideas initially of like what form our work was going to take, like, and then because at that time I was living in Berlin and Roxy was in London, and then by 2020 it felt that it was time for me. I wanted to come back, and then we were able to then be doing it sort of like fully full time from then. Obviously then the pandemic happened, so that put a bit of a spanner in, but we've kind of managed to survive, I guess. Yeah.
Wow, that is so cool. That is really, really interesting to kind of hear. It would seem that collaboration has been a really powerful tool for you guys, just having to like meld your different interests and just kind of combine them together. I mean, that sounds so amazing. So as casting directors then, what is your day-to-day like? What are the favorite parts of your job, would you say?
God. I mean, here's the thing, like with the work we do, every job can be completely different. The briefs can be completely different. Sometimes it will be the case of let's say we're looking for like a specific type of character with acting roles, and then we have to kind of go down a route of looking down acting agencies, and some are like we need real characters with real stories, and then it's down like a research route. So I don't know. I think it depends day to day
on what project we're working on. I guess we're spending a lot of time on Instagram, keeping our eyes open.
Basically, each job can be completely different, depending on the role. But like we said, we like to work specifically with like street casts, and making sure that everything's like all inclusive and diverse. So I guess that takes a little bit more work. essentially.
But I guess sort of in the way, like the process is generally always the same. There's like a research stage of whatever project we're working on, finding those people that sort of fit the brief that we're working to, and then presenting those people to whoever team we're working with, and then it will be the self-tapes, then it might be an in-person casting, and then it would lead to confirmation for the job. That's the general gist of our process.
Amazing. Okay, so now that we understand a little bit more about that, we want to kind of jump into the meat of today's discussion, which is really talking about self-tapes. Now, just in case anyone doesn't understand or doesn't know what self-tapes are, what are self-tapes exactly?
So, okay, so self-tapes are essentially, it's like it's your audition. It's an audition for any role that is presented to the director and agency or client. So I would say it's the bit before you get confirmed, or before.
It's a way, it's a tool for us to like obviously see what you're like in front of the camera, a bit of what your personality is, how comfortable you are in front of the camera. But it's kind of like, I guess it's become more used. It was more used because of the pandemic, because it wasn't possible to do in-person castings. So it's kind of like a precursor to maybe them doing another casting, or it can go straight to confirmation.
But also I think, I mean, self-tapes, I say it's obviously quite a pretty new concept with the whole casting process, like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, that wouldn't have existed. People would have just come straight to in-person castings. So in a weird way, it's good because it means you're able to see more people with the time frame that you have. But maybe it's a bit harder because it means if you're looking through so many casting tapes, things can get lost. So it is quite important to like make sure you really like. I mean, we'll go into it, like, how to make sure your casting tapes sort of stand out from others, because there are just so many you have to go through, and sometimes it'll be like the first 5 to 10 seconds. You need to be like captivated before they can just sort of like move on to the next. That's just the sad reality of it, I guess.
I really love what you mentioned there. Because that was actually something that I was going to ask you in terms of the difference between like the self-tape and obviously the in-person casting. Do you guys have a preference? Do you think that there are benefits to doing a self-tape over a live casting, for example? Like, what do you guys personally prefer?
So I think, like, obviously during the pandemic, self-tapes was the only option, really. And I think a lot of people, maybe a lot of production, realized that it saved a lot of money, it saved a lot of time. So it kind of became this like the new preferred method. But personally, I think in person is way better because you're able to communicate with them. Obviously it's hard when we have to write like a brief, so you're only given like whatever paragraph is sent to you to do that tape, and sometimes if you don't understand it, you don't have the benefit of asking questions face to face or interacting with someone.
And it's a hard thing to like be in a room by yourself, probably with a camera in front of yourself and trying to like do whatever action or whatever you've been asked to do in the take. Like, we completely get that. I think we're able to get more from an in-person casting, but it does seem that now that casting tapes often come before that, because they're not able to see everyone at an in-person casting.
So that's kind of the pros and the cons, isn't it? The pros is that you get to see a wider variety. I guess the con is that you're maybe not able to get that in-person experience and get maybe the most out of the individual.
Okay. Yeah, I really love how you've kind of put that. Something that we talk about here at Contact, we always describe that we always say to our creatives anyway, that your profile is actually your kind of pre-interview, if you like. So we're always like, have a super strong profile, because that is what, you know, casting directors and obviously potential bookers are going to look for. So before you even get to the self-tape stage, your profile needs to be exceptional. But I guess, you know, from what you're saying in terms of the casting process, you have the step one, which is the initial kind of interview, if you like, which is your profile, and then of course you move on to kind of the self-tape, and then if they like your self-tape, then maybe you might get invited for a live casting. So there's definitely different steps and different layers to it, but we can see how they all contribute. And really help to position yourself in the best possible place. So leading on nicely from that, then the key question that everyone is dying to know today, you know, what is the difference between a good self-tape and a killer self-tape? You know, I really would love to hear, as I'm sure our creatives would love to hear also, what are the kind of do's and don'ts for a self-tape? What should we be including? What should we be avoiding?
Oh, we had a like really in-depth conversation about this yesterday, because it feels it's quite a complex question, because there's not really a right or wrong way to do a casting tape, if that makes sense.
I think like there's obviously like there's like some technical things that you do which are really important, like which are like just, you know, the thing of trying to use good lighting, make sure there's no background noise, all that kind of thing that you can be seen clearly, which is probably pretty obvious. And I think then
that's just it. I think so. Like, first off, exactly that. I think like seeing something for the first time, I think it's really important that like the lighting's really good, that make sure we can hear you clearly, make sure we can see you clearly, and I guess trying to also I guess like make sure you like really read the brief. And I don't know.
I think it's trying to read the brief. And to be honest, if you get given a brief and you're not really sure like on exactly what is being asked of you, it's okay to ask questions, and we will always try and answer the questions when we have like the capacity to. So don't be afraid to do that. But obviously we are dealing with like a high volume of people, so maybe we're not going to have time to do that all the time, but we will always try our best to do that. But I think it's to try and just like read the brief and keep it short and to the point. Like we sadly don't have like enough time to sort of watch really, really long casting tapes. I think often we often put like a time, like a recommended time of how long your tape should be.
Because also, like, I mean, you know, we do get it sometimes. You'll receive like a I wouldn't say ridiculous brief, but like a brief that is like can be quite specific. And most of the time, essentially, we're just trying to gauge who you are as a person and if you would be perfect for that role. And that doesn't mean that if you're not selected that you weren't good or that you did a bad job. I think you just have to remember, like, each project, the director or the client or the agency will have like a very specific person or type of person in mind. So
and there's a lot of opinions. there's a lot of opinions that go into who gets that final job.
So I think like it's a case of like not feeling disheartened if you're not picked. Sometimes it really isn't a case of, oh, your tape was bad or you were bad. It, you know, a lot of the time, especially when we're sort of doing a lot of these like real people castings, we're looking for they're looking for a very specific type of person. And I think the best thing to do is just like have confidence in whatever you're doing. Just feel confident. Don't, you know, I guess don't be shy.
Yeah,
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess it's just like, if the brief is super simple, keep it super simple. If you've not done any acting before and it's asking for acting, or asking for some improvisation, don't overthink it. Don't like, don't feel like you need to then like act something like, like theater acting. If you've not done any acting before and the brief is really simple with an action, don't overthink it. Don't get in your head. Just like feel natural, just like feel confident. I mean, it's easier said than done, but as much as you can, really. And yeah, essentially,
I think as well, like for like, it's important like reading the brief and understanding what the project is, because a lot of the style of casting that we do is they want real people and they want those real personalities. So it's like they want to see a real part of you, but also again, it's really dependent on the brief, so it's really hard to like, that's like general, I'd say. Yeah. Sorry, I felt like it was really rambly.
That was actually really, really good. I think the essential point is be yourself, because that is what casting directors are really kind of hoping to see through that video. They've seen your pictures, they know you know how to pose, they know that you know how to pull off a certain look, they know all these things about you already, but now they want to see your personality, your character. And they want to see how you walk and things like that. So yeah, I think that's definitely sound, solid advice for sure. Okay, so that's strictly speaking about self tapes, but on a broader kind of scale, what advice do you kind of have for models, for creatives, just to kind of increase their chances of being selected for castings to begin with? Because I know that's something that a lot of our creatives on the platform have expressed concern about. They're like, I keep on getting shortlisted for stuff, but then when it comes to actually going through the whole casting process, I get released and things like that. So it's definitely something that's on the heart and on the minds of our creatives. So do you guys have any kind of advice, tips, tools and tricks that they should be aware of?
So I'd say first thing I would say is making sure your Instagrams are up to date, making sure your social media is up to date. And like, if you have a private account, I would suggest having another like work account that is, if you want to keep your Instagram private with your friends, have a separate one that is just for work. If this is what you really want to pursue and this is what you want to do in life, I think almost like a portfolio. And this doesn't mean necessarily like glossy headshots or whatnot. It's let this be like almost like if you're selling yourself as like, this is your brand of who you are, like make sure your Instagrams reflect that. Because like I said, like when clients and agents or whatever, they want to look through people's stuff, they want to see a bit more about you, who you are. Like you said, we've seen we see that you can do the shot, we see that you look good in this look or that look, but it's like, are you really that person? Can you fit into this? And then just be true to yourself, because at the end of the day, there will be a role for you, as there are millions of roles and characters that like we normally have to cast for these kind of things. But so I think just like
it's like little things. I think like Roxy said, like keeping your like profiles up to date, like even like with change of hair and things like that, because like there's little things like that like can like make, like if a director's got something in their head that they want a blonde person or they want a redhead or whatever, like then we often need that information like quite quickly. It's always quite a quick turnaround. So I think try to keep those things as up to date as you can. Even things as well, like we often get like specific, I know you have it on contact, like to have like skills that you have, like whether it's dance or whatever, like we get very, very specific briefs, like we're looking for a girl that does gardening or whatever, like any of those kind of things that you feel that you're strong in or a part of you, like include that, because we're always looking for the most specific, obscure things, and that always helps us massively. And also, if you don't say you can do something if you can't.
Oh my goodness, I love that last one. That is we've done that at some point, but yes, I absolutely agree with you. Do something, unless you can actually do it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's such sound advice, especially about the Instagram. I cannot express how frustrating it is when I stalk some of our creatives and I'm like, why is your account private? I mean, something that I've noticed a lot of our bookers love to do is that, yes, they'll look at your profile on Contact, but then they're clicking onto your Instagram to see kind of more content from you and see you day to day and all that sort of stuff. So it frustrates me when we have creatives on the platform that they've privated their account, because sometimes, I'll actually get emails from these bookers like, I'm trying to view this person's account and I can't see it.
Yeah, so and I get it. Like, you might want to have, you want to have Instagram for your friends or whatever, like to keep it private. I could totally get that, but yeah, try and have another one.
Yeah, and we're not saying like be influencers and have like a ton of followers. It's like it's got nothing to do with that. Think of it, literally as like an extension of your portfolio. Like, and that's if this is something that you want to do, and if you want to increase your chances, and that's just it. That's the reality of it.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. Okay, so as casting directors then, this is something I'm very interested and intrigued by personally. How important actually is experience to you guys? Would you mark someone down or discount someone because they don't have experience, or is having the right look, the right attitude more important?
Yeah, 100%. Like, experience means, I mean, this, again, different casting directors have different things that they do. But for us and what we tend to do, experience means absolutely nothing. It's like, honestly, if you've got the confidence, if you're just like, and the willingness and like the drive to do it, and then that's it, really.
Yeah, absolutely. We would never like not consider one because they don't seem to have an experience. Like, some of the best people we've worked with haven't had any experience, and I think it's just like maybe the only sort of level of experience I'd say it's just more of like having like a little bit of understanding that sadly like we often are working to like very, very tight deadlines. Like, if you see that casting call, like apply straight away, like, because we're often like having to turn things around so quickly, that's something I'd say is quite important. And sometimes it can seem like we're being really demanding, like, can you send us this now? But it's because we've got someone else saying it to us. So yeah, that's the only sort of thing I'd say.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is so recently Contact has made the transition from being an agency to a booking platform, and so that now means that the creatives on our platform are considered freelancers, right? And now I'm sure you guys know a large part of being a creative freelancer is pitching yourself, is putting yourself out there, is networking, is connecting with new people. Obviously, you guys run a casting agency. So if, for example, one of our creatives wanted to reach out to you guys like, oh, do you have anything that you think I might be good for? Or do you have any jobs, opening, that sort of thing? How should they kind of approach you? What would, for you guys, enable them to stand out?
I'd say we're absolutely happy for people to contact us that aren't like as an individual, like absolutely, like we want that. Often we'll get emails like directly to our emails being like, just want to introduce myself, and which is great. And we'll always try to like keep them in mind. But obviously when we're working on something quite quickly, it's hard to then recall those people. So the best thing I would say for us and the way that we work is to always keep an eye on our Instagram and our casting calls, because we'll normally always post them on our stories. And it's like, as soon as you see it, drop us an email, and then that will be the next step, really. Sadly, I feel like if we get emails from like individuals just to like introduce ourselves, like it's really hard for us to, there's nothing I can say, I think that would be like, this would make you stand out. I don't know.
I mean, exactly that. And also it's just, like it's not, wouldn't have, we might, yeah, I don't know, we wouldn't have the job ready for the individual until it comes. So again, just like keep a lookout on our Instagram and just, yeah, apply to jobs when they're relevant to you, I guess.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I just think it's something that definitely comes up a lot, and we're trying to encourage our creatives to be more proactive, and not just kind of sit back and just wait for the jobs to roll in, but actually to go out there. So yeah, something that I've been focusing on is figuring out, okay, how can we teach our creatives how to pitch themselves, how to position themselves, reach out. And I think what you shared there is really, really insightful. So in terms of kind of keeping an eye on key kind of IG pages, accounts, for example, making sure that, you know, as soon as you see that, then you actually respond and react, because, you know, sending that email in at the end of the week might be too late. The whole casting process might have happened in the space of the 2 that, you know, you didn't, you know, take advantage of that. So I think it's really just kind of driving that point home that's really, really important for me. So thank you so much for sharing that. We are sadly running out of time. But the final question I wanted to pose to you guys, so just in case you haven't had an opportunity to share something that you wanted to share, but what kind of general kind of advice do you have for aspiring models out there that are maybe listening to this and thinking, okay, I have no idea how to get started, where to even begin? What would be your advice to them as casting directors?
I would say find your USP. So what is your unique selling point? What is this thing that is unique about you, your interest? Find that thing. Really, like, what are your skills? How can we know this about you without having to ask? Keep your Instagrams up to date. And even just like get to know casting directors, not even just us, like all other casting directors. Go on their Instagram, make sure you follow them, and keep a lookout for casting calls, because a lot of us will put our casting calls up on Instagram or on Twitter. So yeah, it would just be that, you know, keep on top of casting calls from casting directors, make sure Instagram is up to date, and
because I think, you know, like now it depends what kind of thing you're wanting to do. Like fashion modeling is very different to sort of the kind of work that we do, so I don't feel like I can comment on like straight up fashion modeling. But like for what we do, like now, like people and directors are so much more interested in knowing more about you as a person and what your interests are, like what else is going on. Like that's what they want to see, really. So yeah,
I think that's a wonderful place. Thank you so much to the both of you. That has been a really informative and insightful conversation. And I'm sure, you know, the creatives listening and those who will listen to this recording afterwards are going to just gain so much from that. So thank you so much to both of you for your time.
Thank you for having us.
Really
Sorry about the radio interruption.
Absolutely fine. I'm sure we'll have you back again anyways, regardless. So, no excuses. But yeah, thank you both so much, and thank you to our creators for joining us.
Hope it's been helpful.
Yeah. Hope
have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.